Welcome back, everybody, to episode 14 of the ATL Baseball Podcast. I'm here today with Jon Lester. Obviously, it goes without saying, super excited for this interview. Hopefully, we can give you some insight on his playing career, kind of what he's doing today, and what he plans on doing moving forward. So, Jon, I don't think I need to give you much of an intro, but go ahead and give us, a little rundown of your career and kind of what you're doing today.
Well, I was fortunate enough to play 16 seasons. Started out with the Red Sox, played 7, 8 years there, got traded to Oakland, signed with the Cubs in 2015. Was there for 6 years and then finished in DC and finished my career with St. Louis. Fortunate enough along the way to be a part and win 3 World Series. So that was pretty special. Like I said, man, I was lucky and got to play with a lot of great teammates along the way.
I got to start off today and I have to ask a question. And I'm a righty, so I don't know the answer to this question, but is it possible for a left-handed starting pitcher to put his hat on straight?
I don't think so.
I mean,
I got grief from my teammates for that for a long time. Played with John Lackey, and he would yell at me all the time. He'd be like, "Left-hander, why can't you put your hat on straight?" And I'm like, "Dude, it is straight." Like I'd look up at my bill. I'm like, "It's straight to me, man." Like I don't know.
it's
I don't
got to
know
be a
what it
lefty
is.
thing, dude. I don't know.
It's got to be. And you know what's crazy is like my hats now that I wear, I feel like are on straight.
That's
But
straight
when
as
I
shit.
played, yeah, when I played, it was like you would always just kind of yank it down to the side. Next thing you know, you got your ear tucked over there.
I mean, like CC Sabathia. All right, we got to lay some ground rules for this too. By the way, I'm an Indians fan,
Okay.
so I don't want to talk anymore about 2016. I just
All right, fair enough.
I
I
don't want
got
to
you.
fuck. I don't want to fucking do it, man. No, I'm just kidding. We can, but that one hurt. That one hurt. But
Yeah.
CC, I mean, you watch him pitch for so many years. I did. And it was like always crooked, always off to the side. And I mean, it's nothing to do with being a lefty, obviously, but I just thought that was someone gave me the idea to ask that one time, and I was like, oh, that's actually a pretty good question. So,
Yeah, and
um,
like I said, I don't know what it is because I feel like you just kind of pull it down every time, and it's with your left hand, and it just starts creeping and creeping.
well,
Um,
it's the same thing. Why like a lefty looks like they have a prettier swing than a righty. I mean, can't explain
yeah,
that
it's just
one.
something. Yeah, it's just something there.
Um, so you mentioned like you ran into a lot of great teammates along the way. Well, you've been around long enough to probably run into like great teammates, terrible teammates. What makes a good dugout? What makes a good teammate? Like what makes, you know what I mean?
I think and it's not always the loud guys, the funny guys. Those guys, that doesn't always make you a great teammate.
Right, yeah.
I think it's the guys that just know their role. I think that's a big important thing, especially in the big leagues. Like if you don't know if you're a platoon guy or you're the fourth outfield guy and you don't know that, then it's going to be a long season for not only you but the rest of your team. So the guys that just, even if they're starters, they know what they bring to the table. They know what they're good at. They know how to play the game the right way. Um, and you have that feeling around those guys, like no matter what happens, this guy's got my back. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
it just, I think it's just, it comes natural. The few, and I would never name names on this one, but the few kind of, they weren't bad teammates. They just got put in bad spots. So it made them miserable and then it rubbed
Yeah.
off on the rest of us. But those were the guys that, thought in spring training they were the left fielder, the right fielder, or the starting second baseman or whatever. And they ended up being that platoon guy. And it was like, well, I should be playing over this guy. I'm doing better than this guy. I'm hitting lefties better, or this, that, and the other. But just the guys that know, what they're good at and what they bring to the table. I think that just, because then it gives you confidence and you know what you're going to get from those guys day in and day out.
There's probably a fine line of like the guys that know their role, that are platoon guys or their fourth outfielders, but also aren't complacent with that. I mean, that's probably like a tightrope where you want to be better and you want more playing time and you want to help the team, but also you don't want to, like you mentioned, cause a ruckus
Yeah.
because you're giving the manager hell, and or like in youth baseball, the coach. It's tough because everyone says they want you to work hard and they want you to be better, but also don't complain while you're not playing. Just go get better.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's a time and a place to complain.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you do it the right way, go into the manager's office or stay after practice one day and talk to the coach like, hey man, what do I need to do to get more playing time? Or there's just a way. Bitching about it isn't going to get you anywhere, and that's just going to make your teammates not like you anymore, and the coaches definitely don't want to hear it. So it makes them not want to play you anymore. So it's just like I said, I think there's a right way and a wrong way. And if I'm coaching and a kid pulls me aside and talks to me man to man about it, I hold a lot of respect for that kid to do that. Now you hide behind somebody or you say something behind somebody's back, then you start, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah. Probably not take it to social media. That's probably not the answer.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. That's definitely not the answer.
Speaking of social media, I don't know how much you're on social media or what, if you're into that. Did you know Pitching Ninja is?
I've seen them. Yeah.
Did you had to get text messages this morning that said you were on Pitching Ninja?
No, I hadn't heard from anybody.
No, you haven't. No shit.
Yeah.
Oh man, let me bro. He made a tweet 2 hours about you. Can I share my screen and then I'll play
Yeah.
this for you? This is funny. Can you see that?
Oh.
This
Yeah.
is this is good. Do you remember this interview?
Yeah.
Plane
Bits and
flight
pieces
tonight.
of it.
What's it, about 5-6 hours?
Who knows?
That's probably not going to be any fun.
Who cares?
Can you hear that?
It's always going to be.
No, I can't, but I know what interview it is. That one was that was a special.
Yeah.
And I think they kept. I was trying to get out of there, and they kept holding me there to get me to say stupid stuff. So
Yeah, I won't try to get you to
That
say
was a good
stupid
night.
stuff today. But your question at the end is fucking great. What makes a good a clubhouse a special one? Winning.
yeah,
Oh, that was good.
I mean, they try to rope you into questions and like what makes a special clubhouse. Well, I mean, winning. You don't ever hear about having bad clubhouses when you win.
It's so true. It's so true. But nobody wants to hear that. Like they want to hear all like the cliche stuff and all that. And I mean, there's special stuff that happens in a winning clubhouse, but
Yeah,
like I mean, the cliche that matters the most there is like winning solves everything. Like it really does. Like you very rarely have breakups and all that when you're winning. Like there's
yeah.
very few and far between.
Well,
Yes.
I think if you take the next year too, I think the next year we didn't make it. No, we made it to the. No, I think the next year we lost in 163 to the Brewers, and basically the same team played well until right at the last. Whatever the Brewers had to win 18 out of 20 to beat us, and they did.
That was wild, man.
Yeah, and now all of a sudden we're not a good team. We're a bad. You know what I'm saying? Like now the clubhouse has this and that. So, I mean, it's a perfect example of the year before it's the same team and we have no problems. Well, now we don't make the postseason and we've got all these problems.
Well, it's like, I mean, I love Terry Francona, right? I mean, he again, Indians fan. So when he came to the Indians after the Red Sox, like, I was jumping for joy. And his dad had some history with the Indians as well. But like they ran him out of town because he was too nice and too friendly, and it was too lax, and it was like, well, all right. I mean, if he's a great manager for so many years because players love him and everybody plays so loose for him, and he's laid back and chill.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden now we're not winning games, so it's almost like you got to pin blame on somebody, and someone's got to take the fall for it. Which I mean, I guess it's the way sports work. It's not really fair, but
and unfairly it gets blamed on the manager. I mean, unless obviously Tito's a great manager, he's managed a lot of important games and did great for that franchise and the Red Sox and so forth. But the players are the ones that have to go out and play, and if they don't perform, then why isn't it the player's fault? It's always the manager's fault, and he has to find a new job somewhere. And I know Tito's got some other stuff going on physically, and it was probably a good thing that he did move on from this and get his health going and get it going the right direction. At least
the stories that would come out about him when he was managing the Indians, like Guardians. Now I can't say Guardians, man. Like
I'm with you.
I grew up west of Cleveland. Like I can't. Like he would order room service and just get like 12 popsicles at night. Like, and he rode a fucking scooter to work every day.
Yeah.
So, like it just, I don't know, man. I love him. I love the guy. He's like one of a kind. So, and I'm obviously you know him way better than I do. It's just he's great. So I had something else I wanted to ask you. In that 2016 World Series, Game 7, Rajai Davis hits the home run.
Yeah.
Like what's going through your mind between then, at that moment, and when you guys came back out after the rain delay?
So I got pulled in that inning, and I had a guy on first, and Brendan Geyer was up, and they pulled me for Chapman. He hits the ball in the gap, guy scores. So now my runner's out. Now I can go inside. So I go inside, and at that point, they're at pitch 8 or whatever on the Rajai Davis at bat. And when we walk inside, they have everything. They have the champagne out. They have the signs up. They have everything. All the lockers are covered, the whole thing. So we're in there, and I'm taking my cleats off, 5 pitches later or whatever, he hits the homer. And really up until that point, we hadn't had like a Cubs like curse moment. You know what I'm saying? Like we hadn't had an error that cost us a game. The games we won, we won. The games we lost, we lost. There was no like something that defined the moment. You know what I'm saying? Right. So this was like, oh shit, really? Like it's going to happen now. And people forget, man, like this shows you what kind of person and player that Aroldis Chapman is. He gives up that homer, game tying homer in the biggest game in Cubs history, gets the next guy out, then comes out for the bottom of the 9th and goes 1, 2, 3. So like people forget that. They only want to talk about, the homer, which is obviously a big moment, but he went 1, 2, 3, and it kind of gave us kind of that momentum back. You know what I'm saying? Like it got us, all right, we're fine. It's just a tie game. It's 0-0 now. And then the rain delay. And we had there's a little weight room right when you walk down the stairs from the dugout. And we had, the players only type of just gathering. It wasn't a meeting, but, Jay stood up and was just like, hey guys, listen, we're fine. Like is
that true? That story that you hear is true.
Yeah.
Of all the guys on that team.
Yeah. And see,
he was the one.
That was the coolest part is Jay's a quiet dude. And, it could have been from Rossi or, Briz or whoever who's a little bit more vocal day to day. But like when Jay spoke, it was like, oh, okay, what, all right, we're listening, like we're locked in. And it wasn't anything inspirational. It was just more of like, hey, everybody chill out. We're good. Reset. We're starting the first inning all over again. Like, let's go. And then they were like, all right, they're pulling the tarp. And as they're pulling the tarp, Schwarber stood up and goes, all right, I'm going to get on. I'm going to lead off this inning with a hit. And I forgot who was behind him. He was like, you knocked me in. And it was just like, all right, here we go. Like now I don't think without the rain delay, we may still have won. I don't know that answer, but the rain delay, I think, helped us
gather yourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like somebody compared this to, and I can't remember who said it, but I don't want to steal their line. They compared it to a boxing fight, right? Like you get knocked in the chin and you're kind of wobbling, and then one more hit and it's like bell, okay, that was our bell. Okay, now we can get in our corner and relax and regroup, get our feet back on the ground, and go back out there. And then obviously we ended up closing it out, but it definitely helped us.
Man, I'm like, you're just reciting players from that series, and it's like the Indians guys are like Rajay Davis, Brennan Geyer. I think Michael Martinez was the last one to make the last out, and then you start mentioning Cubs guys, and it's like, Anthony Rizzo, Jason Hayward, Schwarber, and I'm just like, oh my god, our lineup was so
what
bad.
The Indians had, though, it goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. They had guys that understood their role.
Yeah,
like they had Brandon Geyer. He knew it didn't matter what lefty was throwing, and if it was out of a cannon, he was playing against lefties. They had guys that, you had Lindor at short, you had Kipnis, you had Carlos Martinez at first, switch hitting guy. You had some dudes that could play, and you had a bullpen that was locked down. You had four guys down there.
Miller. Now I'm blanking. I think Andrew Miller was one of them because we traded for him. I mean, it's a small market team, and the inner workings of an MLB franchise way more than I ever will. Obviously, from a fan view, that's really where I gather my, I don't want to say stereotypes, but like, you gather what it looks like from the outside looking in. And, it's frustrating rooting for a small market team. And like you played for the A's for a year. And I can't imagine what their fans go through of how they run. I mean, what they do with what they have is amazing. But when you see what the Dodgers are doing, how much they're spending, it's a little disheartening. I mean,
it's tough because and I hate seeing what the Dodgers are doing. Like, because when I was growing up, that was the Yankees, and you're always like, well, free agent guy, he's going to go to the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
And now that money is kind of spread out a little bit throughout MLB, but teams like that, it's almost like you hope they lose. Like you don't want them. You want the smaller market guys to use the resources they have. I mean, you look at Tampa. I know Tampa hasn't won, but every year they're at the top of the East. They go to the playoffs. Like I said, I know they haven't won. They haven't produced a winner yet, but they somehow find these guys. They get them there. They trade for guys that are kind of maybe going through a little downtime in their career or whatever, and they rejuvenate them. They've got young pitching studs. And that's what smaller market teams have to do. They have to trade. They have to sign kind of that middle guy. And then they've got to have those filler guys that can come in and, like I said, know their roles and play that role and do it well. And you're going to have a good team.
It's almost, for me, what Tampa does and what the A's have done in a few years here and there. I mean, it's more than that. It's like every 3 years they have a good team for 2 years. It's more impressive than some of the larger markets that are just signing or trading for the best guys, because to develop your own guys from this beginning, or like you said, identify guys on other teams that are like not used properly, maybe not in the right role.
Yeah.
Obviously technology is crazy today, but they're able to identify and get those guys in their org and then just pitch above what play above what they've done the last however many years. And then all of a sudden the Rays their payroll isn't even as big as some players that are signing, and they're winning 87, 90, 93 games, whatever they won last year, and, top of the East.
Well, and you look at Baltimore too. I mean, Baltimore had, and the other part to that is the teams that have finished at the lower end of the divisions year after year. You have to draft well, and you look at what the Orioles have done. You look at what the Rays have done with their draft. Yeah, when they do have studs, they trade those for young, prospects that hopefully help the big league team, and then they get 6 years of those guys. And some of these small market teams, they've locked up those younger guys early, which you have to do. You get 8 years out of them instead of 6 years.
Like the Braves.
Yeah, the Braves are the blueprint. And then once you do that, you move your money around, or you have your money in certain years where, okay, now this year we can go after a free agent starting pitcher where we have that money, or we need they don't need anybody in the infield, but they need a left fielder. Okay, we've got $10 million this year to spend on a left fielder and a back end bullpen guy. So when you have those young guys, then you're able to kind of predict the future. Okay, I've got these in place. There might be 2 or 3 moving parts as opposed to 7, which is kind of what happens with the lower market teams, because you do sign a free agent that, say you sign whoever for $5 million, he has a decent year. Well, the A's aren't going to re-sign him because that price tag has just gone up.
Yeah.
So now he's going to go to wherever for 10 or 8 or whatever that is. But yeah, those teams have to maximize the players that they have for the years that they have them. And it sucks because the money's there. I mean, you're not seeing people putting up teams for sale because they're broke. Like they're printing money. So it's just a matter of them wanting to do it. I'm interested to see what the A's do now moving to Vegas. Like now you've got to put a product on the field.
Yeah, you have to, because there's no loyal fans there, and people are going to come. I mean, they're going to come for a new ballpark, but that's only going to last for so long. Like, you have to be good, or, we'll see. There's no excuse now not to go, or there's no excuse not to put something on the field. It's not like a money, even though it's never been a money thing. It's not a money thing. It's a. Are you a penny pincher when you're a billionaire? Or are you not?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It sounds like. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, and the other part as a fan, now that I'm done, and like football fan, baseball fan, whatever. As a fan, all you want is something competitive, right? You don't want the bottom of the barrel. Yeah, would it be nice to have the top of the barrel 100%? But if you give me a competitive team, I'll show up.
Right.
Like if you're in last place and if you're losing 100 games, nobody's going to want to go to that game. I don't care if you give them tickets.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you give me a competitive team that's in it, they have so many wild card spots now that might have a chance at wild card. Like, that's exciting. That gives somebody something to cheer about. But nobody wants to sit there and go through a 100-loss season.
No, and there's not many Rays fans out there, but their fans can't be mad that it's you can't be mad that you're not winning. The other thing is, like, you guys play 162 games.
Mm-hmm.
And you talked about losing a 1-game play. Like, you play 162 games, and the team below you in the wild card might be 10 games worse than you were for a whole 162 game span. And you got one day where, you know how it is. Yeah. Like, sometimes the other team's going to get 4 or 5 seeing eye singles, and they're going to string them together, and that's all they're going to get. But you're going to have base runners on every single inning. You're going to be, ripping balls left and right. And all of a sudden they win a 2-1 ball game, and you're out after 162 games. You think the season should be shorter?
I don't. I like the 162. It is a long year. I think there's ways.
Well, especially for you, you're out there throwing you're a unicorn, starting as many games as you did for so long and throwing 200. That doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and I think that's why they need to keep it at 162, because they're not the workload that they're having. Really, it's the position players you got to ask, because the pitchers aren't required to do the workload that they once were. And I think there's ways to shorten the full overall season. Spring training doesn't need to be 8 weeks long, but that's a money grab for the owners as well for those games. You play a full month of games. You don't need that. You need your starters, which they can do on the backfield, to get up to 4 or 5 innings, 80, 90 pitches, and now let's roll. Your bullpen guys are ready by the middle of spring training. They're ready to go. The only thing they have to do by the end is go back to back once, and then they're ready to go for the season. So, and you ask hitters too, they can get their at bats anywhere to lead up to a season.
Yeah, you got to get your innings and take a couple of days off. Like, I could go see however many live pitches I want to in a day, and come back the next day and see as many
Well, and you'll see it like when we would do, if we had pitchers that lined up that were doing, like minor league games, you didn't pitch in the, say we're with the Cubs and we're playing the Reds in spring training, and they don't want you to see them, it's getting towards the end or whatever. Well, we'd go into the minor league game and they'd send 3 or 4 of our teammates over there, and they would literally lead off every inning. They would, like, the minor league kids wouldn't even get to bat. They just go play defense. And these guys would hit against us and the other team. You know what I'm saying? So it's like these guys can get their at bats. They can see pitches. They can do, that's easy for them. And the pitchers do take a little bit depending on what, the season before, World Series, playoffs.
Some
usage,
guys don't throw enough in the off season, I imagine.
Well, and I've noticed that's changed over the last couple of years too. Because like when I was with the Red Sox, they told us, all right, don't pick a ball up till like middle of December. Do all your weights and your arm training and stuff like that, but don't start playing catch till December. And I would play catch, throw, long toss, all that stuff, and then I would throw a bullpen probably 2 weeks before spring started.
Mm-hmm.
I'd get off the mound. So I'd maybe have 2 or 3 bullpens before I got to spring training. Now guys are throwing all off season, throwing bullpens, trying to get stronger, trying to throw harder. I don't know how that's going to work. Like there was veteran guys I played with the Red Sox that showed up to spring training and hadn't thrown a bullpen yet, hadn't stepped on the mound, because they're older and they're trying to save their bullets. So
yeah,
I think everybody's got their own program of what they want to do.
So we've got, like, in today's day and age, these sweet ass iPhones that they're handheld computers you can do anything from. When I was a kid, we had no cell phones, and then we had the first iteration of like the big brick. We're living in an era of like constant technology change, just with like a cell phone.
Yep.
When you first come in to the bigs, I would say that your generation of pitcher is one of the first people that you came in and technology probably wasn't huge.
Yeah.
But throughout your career, by the end of it, we've got TrackMan, Rapsodo, we've got weighted ball science and all this other stuff. How did that evolution like pertain to you? Like, did you stay away from it? Did you evolve with it? Were you skeptical? Like,
I think it's a love-hate. I think it's what organization you're with and who's presenting it to you at that my point in my career where I was. Because you've got guys that have never played baseball let's just say they played high school ball. Maybe not even that. You got these guys that are looking at what you're saying, these Rapsodo numbers, TrackMan numbers, and they're trying to say, well, we don't understand why you don't just throw this pitch more. Well, that pitch may not apply to that hitter. And they're like, well, based on these numbers, you should just throw this pitch. And it didn't make sense to me. When I got to St. Louis, they kind of broke it down in a different, hold on one second. I got to get a computer charger.
No, it's all good.
Thank you. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right.
That was your out. If this interview was awful, it was like, it's like when you go on a first date and you have a friend call you like 45 minutes in, and she's gonna act or he's gonna act like it's an emergency, and basically that's your out. Or it's like, hey, you know what? Are you sure you need somebody? Then they're like, oh, okay, it's going well. So
yeah,
that's a good trick. But go ahead. Sorry.
I want to say, like in St. Louis, I saw they brought me data based on my pitches, not so much the Rapsodo or TrackMan numbers. But I did see guys talk to these people about, trying to maximize the axis of the ball. Like, okay, when I throw my fastball, the center axis of the ball is tilted so it doesn't spin true, like if you got it more on this. So I'm like, okay, I understand that. That makes sense to me. And I understand, okay, how do I make my pitches more efficient? But I mean, these guys live and die by it. I mean, I watched Darvish throw a bullpen in Chicago one time, where he was trying to do this. He's trying to throw a new slider, and he was comparing the spin rate and same thing, the axis of the ball and the where it was breaking on how he threw it. So he'd throw it his normal way, and then he'd try it this new way, and he'd be like, well, this one spins better, but this one breaks sharper, you know, whatever he was talking about. So I think if you dive into it and really try to become knowledgeable in it, I think it can help. Just like you see in golf now, like they're maximizing angle of attack on the driver and spin on the ball, and they know, okay, if I have the spin at this, it's going to do this. So it gives you more of a, I guess,
You can find
I don't know the
you
word,
can
but
find
you
tune
know more.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're tuned into the ball a little bit more, as opposed to just throwing it and hoping it moves the way you want it to move, and then when it doesn't, you don't know why.
Yeah,
You know,
it's no more like that was nasty. Oh, that was a hanger. Like there's more than just like, oh, that pitch is nasty, you know?
yeah, yeah. But to go back to the point of these pitching guys that sit there and they break down all your pitches, and we had a guy. It wasn't directed at me; it was directed at another guy. And they were saying, they give you the quadrant of the batter's box, right? And they showed he had thrown like 20 something curveballs in the upper away quadrant to right-handed hitters. He was a lefty. And they're like, they're hitting 0 or they're hitting 150 with a slug of 150 on this pitch. Why don't you just throw that pitch? And you're sitting there going, the reason why nobody's hitting that pitch is because it's a ball, it's a hanger out of my hand, and a few people have swung at it to give me a percentage of strikes, and a few umpires have called it a strike. So this is an accidental pitch, and you want me to try to throw it more.
Well,
So,
I mean, yeah, people are like just not expecting like that pitch in that location. Like it's an accident. Like, okay, you got one. Like if that pitch is 3 inches over to the right, like that pitch is probably getting hammered. Like,
Yeah, 3 inches down, 3 inches over, and it's a homer.
Good night.
And they want you to try to throw that pitch.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think now they're better at it. I think, when they started introducing it, it was kind of unknown knowledge. It was, okay, this is why this guy's fastball that's middle belt high doesn't get hit, because he has high spin rate. And this is why this guy throws a better sinker than this guy. Okay, we can use those numbers to better people. I get that. But like they didn't know how to use them. And now they've been around it and they've calculated and they broke it down, and they have more players using it, and then they have every stadium that has it now. So they can now educate themselves on how to present it and how to use it for players' benefits.
I also think there's probably more baseball guys that are buying into it. So like you mentioned, like the guy that was in the beginning was the guy that never played past like high school or maybe low-level college, and he's just looking at the numbers, and he doesn't really understand the game of baseball. So he's trying to tell this guy, like, just so this, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, the reason why that pitch works is because I only threw that pitch in, like, this count when this guy's expecting this. But now, like, you have, like, let's just say Terry Francona, for example, like, guys that have been around the game for so long. Now Tito is able to use his baseball experience of 60 years, whatever it is, plus this data, and he's able to implement it and help you be a better pitcher. Where it's like the data says this, but also we can't go that far with the data with you, John. Like you have to throw. We try to throw this pitch a little bit more, but like we're not throwing 112 cutters in this quadrant because it's got, you know what I mean? Unless you're, Mariano, like we're going to have to mix up our pitches a little bit.
Well, I mean, and you see it now, like you see these relievers that come in and a guy throws, I mean, I don't watch a lot of baseball, but the playoffs, I'll tune in and watch that a little bit, but you'll see these guys come in and first pitch out of the bullpen is this nasty ripping slider or a curveball, whatever they throw. Like, okay, that was nasty. It was 85, 90 miles an hour. Like, damn, okay. And then he throws 3 more, 4 more, 5 more. Like, okay, where's this guy's heater? And then all of a sudden, wham, he throws 101. And so you're sitting there going, oh, okay. The data guys are telling him your slider is nasty.
Mm-hmm.
It rates out at this. You should just throw your slider. Nobody can hit it. Okay, that's great, but if I only throw my I need to throw a heater or two in there as well. Like you lose feel for your curveball, you got to throw a heater. Okay, I throw a heater. Now, okay, let me see if I can throw my curveball for a strike. Where it's literally they want these guys to be robots and just all right, you throw sliders. We don't care where it goes. You can walk. They want the three absolutes. They want to give up a hit, walk a guy, or strike him out. They don't care. They don't care about walks anymore. Like, hey, go walk them. We don't care because we know you got swing and miss stuff. So as long as you don't give up homers or slug, you give up singles, you walk guys and you strike guys out, fine. We'll take our chances and we'll keep running you out there. So there's no pitching anymore. It's just chucking the baseball as hard as you can, spin it as hard as you can, and hope that they swing and miss at it. That's why it's same thing for position players, only not reverse, but they want slug.
Mm-hmm. They don't care about strikeouts.
Walks and they don't care if you strike out. So
you hate
if
it.
you
hate it a little bit.
Oh, I hate that.
I do too. I do too because I mean, I played Division II baseball. Like I was a good Division II player, but was never going anywhere after that. But like I was very much not an athlete, but I was just good because it was like every single pitch you throw me, like it was gonna be a boxing match. Like you're gonna try and come in and kick my ass, and I'm not gonna let you. So, like there was like I didn't want to strike out. There was grit and determination. Like there was pride on not striking out and all that. So like, and there's something like obviously we all love mammo home runs, right? But when you manufacture a run, there's something beautiful about a well placed bunt, right? That maybe you beat it out, and then the defense.
Even the guy on third with less than two outs and the infield's back, and you hit a 16 hopper to the shortstop to score the run.
Mm-hmm.
Like we want to win the game, right? You only win the game by scoring runs.
Yep.
So, but they don't want that. They want homers. They want you to hit the 2-run homer or strike out. They don't. And the other part to go back to what you're saying about, when you got into the box and you wanted to out grit the guy, you wanted to out determination the guy. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't care how you did it. You wanted to beat him. Well, it's the same on the other side of pitching for me. Like when I learned why I was throwing pitches that worked, right? Like I had Veritech and it was just, okay, whatever he puts down, that's what I'm throwing. Well, as I got older, you got to learn why those pitches worked and why he called them. So then now you got to start studying scouting reports and you got to start studying hitters and all this other stuff. Then I got to Chicago and took it to a whole nother level. And to your point of the determination, and when I set a guy up to do this, whatever this is, and I get him out and I execute, there's no better feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Does it feel great to be able to reach back and throw 94, 95 by a guy? Yeah. But when I'm able to go boom, 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 and you either took it or you had a shitty swing or it was a weak ground ball to first or whatever, like I beat you. I played the cat and mouse game and I won. Now it's just catcher set up down the middle and chuck it. And we're just going to play that game, which hell, if I throw 100, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
To a certain degree, but it's not on the pitching side of it. It's not fun to watch anymore, because there's no, I've got this guy locked up with this pitch. I'm going to try to nut it. And if I do, he's out. If I don't, I still have this pitch to go to.
Mm.
It's like the Greg Maddux stuff. Like you could sit there and listen to Greg Maddux talk about pitching all day because he would do this to get to this pitch. And he's like, I knew he couldn't hit it.
Did you watch his interview with the Pitching Ninja?
I hadn't.
He has a pretty good interview with the Pitching Ninja and talks about a lot of that stuff.
He's great.
But also he's a unicorn and like.
He could make the ball move so much, and his changeup was nasty. That's why he's 300 game winner, Hall of Famer, however many Cy Youngs.
We'll never see another 300 game winner. I don't think.
No,
I just don't think
it's a little bit hard for guys to get to 200 now with the way that they're doing it.
you had the super long career, and I mean, you ended with 200.
Yeah, yeah. Wainwright, I think, is the last. I think Garrett Cole has a chance. I think he's the
If he
next.
stays healthy, I think he
Yeah,
will get there.
I
But
think
I
he's
mean,
the next
that's
guy.
you're talking 4 or 5 years in between them. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's. But you ever kind of just take a step back and think about you were part of teams, two different teams that had two different curses
Hmm.
that were broken. Like, you ever just think about take it in and think about like what that meant in the game of baseball and where you stand and where your legacy stands being on both of
Yeah.
those teams?
Well, I'll say the Red Sox one, I was a part of it just because I was in the organization. I was in A ball when they won. But to be a part of the organization and see how that changed, everybody's mindset changed, right? Like it went from grinding to try to get there, like, and then they would just play the Yankees and lose. And it just was heartbreaking every year, every year, every year. And then they finally beat them. And I told one of my buddies, we were watching the game when they beat the Yankees. I was like, it doesn't matter who they play in the World Series. It's over. Like they're going to win the World Series. They just that was their World Series. So they're either going to come in like they are now, which they did, super excited, high, like just on that adrenaline rush and just boat race people, or they're going to come in sloppy and you could see it in the first inning. It was like, all right, it's over.
Yep.
Um,
Well, because
but to see that and to see like the people in the organization that have been there for so long, like see how they changed and just it just became, then it filtered down to the minor leagues. Then it was okay, we're not developing anymore. We're winning. Like we want you guys to win. And it was really cool to be a part of that whole change in the organization. Um, and to be honest with you, one of the reasons why I ended up going with the Cubs is I didn't get to be a part of that one. And I was like, man, it'd be really cool if we could do this in Chicago and be a part of that one. Um, Luckily it all worked out. But yeah, man, it's a Chicago was so crazy to go through that and to hear fan stories that come up and stop you like, hey, my grandfather or my dad never got to see this. I just want to say thank you. Like, man, it's that I think that's the coolest part. Over the other stuff.
I mean, to say that that city rallied, like when you were, we don't have to go down this topic if you want to, but when you were diagnosed with lymphoma, like
Yeah.
that city rallied and organization rallied around you. Like, did you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt it more in the organization when I was sick,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. The fans were great. I got cards and notes and all that stuff. I think, hell, I don't even know if Twitter or anything like that was around. I can't remember if it was, but I didn't have any of that stuff. I'm sure if there was stuff on there, but the organization was incredible. Like, we were in Seattle and that's where I'm from, and my
Mm-hmm.
family was there. I kind of found out a little bit. My uncle, my dad's youngest brother, was a doctor, and um, he got me in. I had some stuff going on. I didn't want to tell the team anyway. That's not part of the story. Um, and he got me in and X-rays. Found out the ER doctor. My uncle couldn't see me, and he comes in. He basically says, "You have testicular cancer or lymphoma. You need to go get it checked out." And jaws hit the floor. But like John Henry was out there, owner of the Red Sox, and he's like, "Grab your family. My plane's here. Grab your family. Get on the plane. Get back to Mass General, and there'll be a team waiting for you when you get there."
Mm-hmm.
And our team doctor, Dr. Ronan, incredible human being, incredible doctor. Um, just swooped me up, took my family in, got us taken care of. And, the organization was second to none when it came to dealing with all that stuff. Always checking in. It wasn't just Tito. It wasn't just John Farrell. It was, the whole front office, always making sure if we needed anything, they were there. Then when I got back, that's when you kind of feel feel the support from the fans and how much they cared and kind of rallied around you.
Their sports, like not just Boston, but like sports teams. Like, will you ever pay for a drink in Boston or Chicago? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it makes you realize how important these teams are to people, to fans. Like, I don't think it's a crazy thing. I think it's just like it's unconditional love, and especially when you guys do well,
Yeah.
and like the energy that creates for a city is just, or like one of their best young players is diagnosed with what you were. It's like the support that the city shows, like, just goes to show you how important, in the least crazy way possible, how important these sports teams that they didn't play for them, but they just root for them, right? Like, how important they are.
Well, it's a livelihood. It's what they're when they're born, they're raised to be a Red Sox fan or a Yankees fan, or in Chicago, they're raised to be a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan. Like it's what you are. It becomes an identity. And and one thing I always respect about both those cities is, when you played well, you heard it. When you played bad, you heard it. And you heard it, but it was almost, especially myself, more so in Boston, just being a homegrown kid and coming up through the organization, drafted, all that stuff. You heard it, but it was like a respect aspect. It was like, come on, man, we know you can do better type thing. It wasn't a vindictive, we hate you, we hope you leave, like that,
right.
That type of fan.
I think you get that fan in the bigger markets, not the bigger markets, like the non-homegrown talent. It's like,
when people always told me with the Red Sox, they said, you being a homegrown guy, they're going to go easier on you than they would a free agent signing. And I saw it firsthand. I mean, it's guys that they paid money to that didn't come in and perform. I mean, they would boo you out of town. And
who's the center fielder they signed for a bunch of money, the Red Sox?
The Red Sox, it was
JD Drew.
Crawford. Oh, JD Drew, Carl Crawford, yeah.
Yeah, they're relentless.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part hard? Like when we brought up the interview after you won, and you said they were trying to just get you to say stupid shit. Is it hard to manage, like, the media and the reporters? Like, can you sit down? Like, when I do these, like, I try to, like, not ask you questions that you'd be asked a ton, right? And like, I want it to be interesting. I hope I give a different perspective than like a reporter was, because like I coach baseball, I played baseball forever, so I want to get you to, like, I don't want to say let your guard down, but is it hard for you to come on and not be, you put on, not you specifically, a lot of people will, like, put on the face of, all right, I'm just gonna give the PC answers today. We're not letting our guard down, essentially. Like, is that hard to not Boston be fake, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And Boston was hard early. Because you're kind of, what they are, how they are, and you don't have any relationships with anybody. So when they ask questions, at least for myself, you try to answer them as honest as possible.
Mm-hmm.
When you pitch bad, man, like, the last thing you want to do is sit there and answer questions about how you pitch bad, and so over time, I became better with them and they became better with me. I always tried to tell them in spring training is like, listen, I'm going to try to be as honest as I possibly can after every start. I'm going to tell you if I pitched well, if I pitched bad, if I ended up pitching well, but I didn't think I threw the ball that well, or I pitched bad and thought I threw the ball well. Like, I'll be honest with you guys, but you just have to understand I'm being honest. It may be short, it may be sweet, it may be shitty, I don't know, but I'm being as honest as I can, and I'm giving you as much information that I can from that day. And what turned the corner with me in Boston was one was in 2012 or 2011 going into 12 with all the beer and chicken stuff that we had to answer. And I came forward and talked and answered the questions that nobody else would. And then we had a shitty year. We got our butts kicked that year. And then in 13 was all my contract stuff. I was a free agent after 13. And I had to, or I'm sorry, I had an option after 13. And so we had to deal with all that questioning. And then we won in 14. 14 was the year that I really felt like I turned a corner with them. Because I every time they asked me about the contract, I'd answer it honestly as best I could. And we just kept going. And they really appreciated kind of how honest I was with everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that was kind of like the big turning point for me. I felt like when I left on good terms there with those people. I still see them once in a blue moon and have good relationships with them for the most part that I know of. And then Chicago, same thing, man. Like my open press conference, I sat there and told them the same thing. I said, listen, you may not like what I say, but I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Right.
And try to walk you guys through my start and what I was feeling and what I didn't do well, what I did well. And it took about half that year, I think, for them to kind of realize what, I was being honest. What it does is it takes the start where you get the results, but you don't throw the ball well.
Right.
And I was like, listen, I don't deserve that W. It was a grind. I didn't throw the ball well at all. We got lucky with some plays. This guy made a great play here. Offense scored a bunch of runs for me. So I had a cushion. Like, then they were kind of like, oh, okay, he's telling us the truth of what's going on. But it takes time, man. And yeah, to your point, they ask stupid questions, like, you give up 6 and you lose, and they're like, so how do you think you threw the ball tonight? Well,
how do you think I felt?
Like, dude, it happens. But and the hard part too is which you really have to realize, and it's hard, especially in those markets, because they come at you. And in Boston, there's a lot of people. Chicago, decent amount, not a ton. They come at you, but you have to realize is these guys have a job to do as well. So they have to report what they saw, and what the fan that wasn't at the game, they have to do a story and tell them what happened. So once you kind of separate the two of, hey, they're not coming at me as a person, they're coming at me because they're trying to write a story. That's the hard part. When somebody asks you a question, you're like, whoa, dude, what'd I do to you? Well, no, he's just doing his job. So once you kind of figure that stuff out, man, it takes a minute. You just kind of flow from there. You get in a groove with those people and kind of figure them out.
I feel like that's the next level of maturity, is when, like you said, people have a job to do, and there's however many reporters and all that in Boston and Chicago that, well, if they're not asking you those questions, like, then the other reporters are. And again, like, that's how they put food on the table, right? Like, is their job.
And they need clicks, they need likes, they need people to read their articles to keep their job. And I get it.
Well, the good people are the ones that can get clicks without asking you, so John, what did you feel about that call in the 7th inning that clearly it was strike 3, and then the guy went on to hit a home run, and they want you to say something that's going to get you fined by the league.
Yeah. And baseball's pretty good about it, as long as you don't go too far. It's not like football and basketball where you get fined for not having your shoes tied right or something. But like, you could say like, I could say something like, hey man, I thought I had that pitch, but I got to do a better job the next pitch. The ones that get me are the ones where big spot and somebody makes an error and they want you to pin it on your teammate.
Yeah, you're right. That's a better example.
It's like, come on, dude. Like, listen, he's made 9 other plays that have saved my butt. The only thing I can do is try to make the next pitch and get out of the inning. Like, and you have to try to figure out ways to to pump your teammate up and not be like, well, yeah, if he would have caught it, we're out of the inning, and bury him.
That's hard for a pitcher. Like, I don't know, somebody like you can just see a pitcher unravel on the mound when somebody makes an error behind him, and it's like I should have been out of that inning. It's like, yeah, of course you should have, but like, do we need to go back in the game changer and pull up the video and see when Johnny made this diving play with bases loaded and
somebody
made a rocket? Like, dude, it's baseball. Like I try to tell guys like you can only control your next pitch, right? Like you can't control what happened before that, and
I had an A-ball coach. Sorry, I got a thought when you said that.
Please cut me off whenever you want to cut me. Nobody wants to listen to me, bro. Like,
I hear you. So I had an A-ball coach that told me, he was like, pitchers don't ever get to pick anybody up, right? Like we throw the ball, it gets hit. We rely on everybody else behind us to do a job. He goes, so when somebody makes an error that prolongs your inning or gives up a run or whatever, do you think that guy feels good about it? And we're like, no. He goes, all right, so that's your opportunity to get the next guy out, or the next, whatever, how many outs you need to get. That's your opportunity to get the next guy out, to pick him up and get him off the field. And I was like, that's a really cool way. So then it gives you kind of that competitiveness of, all right, he screwed up, but 9 times out of 10, he makes that play. Now it's my turn to pick him up. Like now he's relying on me to do something. So it kind of gives you that little extra of, okay, now what am I doing? This is the pitch I need to make. This is what I'm trying to do. And it was a really cool way to kind of get over the, somebody screwing up to, prolong your inning or whatever. Now it's like, okay, now it's on me to do this, not on everybody else.
Well, the other thing is too, like when that position player that screws up is like a great dude, great teammate.
Yeah.
You he feels bad, right? And he's not trying to, like you said, he's not trying to do whatever he did, right? Like he wants to make those plays for you. You acting like a prick or with your body language, like it's only gonna make him feel worse. Yeah. And then he's gonna resent you, and that's just bad clubhouse juju, if you will. You know what I mean? When you got like that stuff going on. And I think to I guess tie some of this into the youth game, is that's the maturity aspect of it is the hardest part, is getting kids to understand that one, so much happens in baseball that you can't control. And if you let all that affect you, you're going to have a horrible time, or you're going to be a horrible teammate. And like, I'm sure there's plenty of guys that play because they love the game. Like you have to love the game, but more so than just like the game of baseball. Like if I ask you what you miss most now that you're retired, I'm probably what you would say you probably miss your teammates and the time you spent in the clubhouse with them and all the fried chicken and beer you guys had in Boston. Like that's the stuff that you miss, you know? Yeah. And if you're not a good teammate, then
exactly, you don't want to be around them. It makes the season even longer. Yeah, I mean, to your point, I miss the plane flights, I miss the dinners, I miss the clubhouse. I do miss a little bit of the like getting prepared for a game. I don't miss the work that went into it. I don't miss, I miss the pitching. If I could pitch with no problems, then cool. I miss that. But
and David Ross behind the plate.
Yeah, I need Ross behind the plate. Or Willie. I like Willie.
I'm surprised that you agreed to do this podcast without David Ross on it.
What's that?
I said, I'm surprised you agreed to do the podcast without David Ross on it.
I know, right? Hey, true. I actually saw him. I hadn't seen him in a while. I saw him over New Year's, so it was good to catch back up with him.
Yeah.
But no, man, and like to your point on the youth baseball aspect of it, and baseball sucks because
baseball sucks.
It's such an individual team sport. You rely so much on your team.
Yep.
But it's individual. Like basketball, you're passing, you're shooting. Like it's not individual. Like you're playing as a team. I have to set a screen for this guy to get you open to do this, that, and the other. Football, obviously, not everybody's pulling on the same rope, you can't win. Baseball is like, if your pitcher doesn't pitch well, then the shortstop that hit the 2-run homer is like, well, if our pitcher pitched better, I hit a homer, I did my job. Like it's so hard, especially at the youth level, to get guys to rally around their team. Then with the way that we're promoting youth sports now is, or not youth sports, but youth baseball, is they go to these perfect game showcases. Well, their team doesn't go. I don't mean to say anything bad about Perfect Game.
No, that's right.
I don't want to. I think they've run a great organization, program, whatever. Just using their name for this example. But your team doesn't go with you. You go. So now you're trying out. You're showing off your skills without your team. So now that guy comes back with all this Perfect Game gear. Like, oh damn, dude, that's pretty cool. Like, how'd you do that? So we're promoting the individualism of it, which is fine because you're always going to have good players on your team that were trying to go somewhere. But I feel like it separates teams even more of, well, this kid got to do this and this kid didn't. And I made the A team, but this kid made the C team and this, that, and the other. It's just tough, man, in baseball to rally those guys around a team. Like, hey, we're playing as a team, when it's so individualized.
It's different.
And that's not Perfect Game's fault. That's not that's just the way the game is.
It's the way the game is. Same thing with technology. Like, we could blame the technology for the way that the game is so strike out, the 3 outcomes. It's like, but in a way it has helped develop better baseball players, but also we can agree that kind of sucks that there's no more hit and run, small ball, and what they've done to change it with limiting the amount of picks over to first and the pitch clock and all that, like, it's made the game more exciting. So like, I think it's always going to go in waves, right? Like, it's going to be, this is crazy, we'll find a way to come back down to the center, and then we'll go the other way. And then I think that makes, when you are on a team that is special, it makes it stand out, and it makes you remember the moments of that team, because it's unlike any other team, because every other team, maybe it was like, we practice a couple times during the week and then everyone goes off and does a showcase individually on the weekends, and then we come practice and then we do a showcase, and then it's when you have a team that likes each other and likes being around each other and spending time together, then that's the difference, and you really feel that.
Yeah. You can feel it. You can feel it early. I mean, especially with kids. Kids aren't stupid either. Like they know who they're like. Oh, I could hang around that kid, or I don't really want to be around him too much, but we'll play baseball together. I mean, it's the same as adults. I mean, you go through, even the best teams I was on, you go through spurts where you don't want to be around anybody.
Yep.
You see them. I see them more than my family, and you're with them from February until October, hopefully October. And you're like, go, July, August, you're like, go away. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And there's fights and there's words and there's stuff like that. You just got to realize you have 25 grown men in the same clubhouse every single day. And, you just got to kind of figure out how to coexist with everybody.
That makes a good manager, right? Like, when he's able to.
Well, and I mean, I played for great, really, really, really good managers. Started with Tito, then John Farrell was really good at that, about having the clubhouse run the clubhouse, and then Bob Melvin was great in Oakland, and then Joe. So having Joe let us do everything. It was all on us, and there was a couple times during the 6 years or whatever where we needed him to step up and be the manager and be, the man. And he did that. Or I shouldn't say the man, the boss. And he did that. But for the most part, 98% of the time, it was on us to control. And when you kind of have that set early on of, hey, listen, you guys police yourselves, then those guys start listening and they start respecting and understanding how we go about our day-to-day business. And that's why we had such good teams for so long. I feel like.
What I want to ask you like what the craziest moment that you had on. I have in my head what I think the craziest moment in your career was. What's the craziest moment on the field that you've had, or one of the most memorable ones if you take out winning World Series?
Take out winning.
Take out winning the World Series, obviously that's,
Yeah,
and then no, I do want to ask you about that, but like
I was gonna say that one. That one was pretty cool.
let's go
Um,
let's go there, and I'll just bring up what I want to ask you about after
okay.
that. Like the no, I guess. What haven't you accomplished on the field that you want to accomplish? You won 3 World Series, or you have 3 rings. Is there one that you wear more than the other?
Um, yeah, I probably wear the Cubs one more,
Yeah.
but, but mainly because it fits. The other two are a little snug. My hands were a little less swollen back then when I got them fit, so they're a little tighter. But yeah, it would be the Cubs one right now. Um, I think too because it's just most recent.
I mean, and you were. It's. I imagine it must be different when you're with all the older guy, and you're the voice of reason. You're what all the young guys. You guys are a pretty young team. Like you guys,
Yeah, we were real young.
those guys probably look to you for so much guidance, whether you know it or not. Like I'm sure they look to you how you handled situations with the press, how you
Mhm.
handled, I don't know, an umpire that would charge the mound at you, like that's what I want to ask you about. That's where I was going with that. But I mean, they're going to ask, like, they're looking to you, and you weren't the manager, but like, if there was a player manager, like that was you of that team. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like one of them. So
Well,
that,
it was more. It was more. So I'm not a vocal guy,
mm-hmm,
and I'll tell you about a conversation I had, and this was one of the reasons. Another reason I ended up signing with the Cubs. I had a conversation when they hired Joe, um, during the whole free agent process, and I go, Joe, what do you? If I sign with the Cubs, what do you expect from me? What do you want from me? And he went down this whole list and talked like Joe talks, and you know, I really liked what he had to say. And I go, okay, that's great. I go, I'm not going to be your vocal guy. I'm not going to come in and pump guys up. I said, what I'm going to do is my job every single day. And I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to be ready to pitch every 5 days. Not to say that I won't talk to people, but when I show up to work, I get my work done, and then I'm there for whatever you need me to do. So lead more by example than by voice. Whereas like it was a really good combination where I would do that, and then Rossi was more of the vocal guy.
mm-hmm,
Where, but he was the backup catcher, so he was the energy guy, he was the vocal guy, he was the funny guy, he was all that, right? And really good teammate. He was more of that personality. I was more of the I'm putting my head down, I'm doing my work. After the game, Riz, you want to grab a beer and talk about some stuff, ask some questions, whatever. And that's what we would do. We would, go back to the hotel. Part of the perks of being the older guy in a big contract is you get a suite on the road. The only other or the bad part about it is that food and alcohol bill gets put on your room, nobody else's. So you got to pick up that tab. But that's what we started doing. We would go, back to the hotel. There'd be some nights it'd be 3 or 4 of us. Other nights it'd be 10, 12 of us, and just sit around and tell stories and talk and hang out. So that's kind of how I would go about leading.
mm-hmm.
And then, like I always wanted the guys to know I was ready for every start. I was as prepared as I could be for that start. And that's kind of how I would try to lead. Um, and Riz is, I think, a good combo. He turned into like a good combo of that, between me and Rossi, and he kind of took the reins as I got older, on that whole deal.
And I mean, when he's Rossi being the backup catcher is like he's around the team more than like a pitcher would be, and he kind of gets a pulse on everybody and how's it
Yeah.
going. So like you guys being together were probably like a perfect pair of like, oh, John's ready for everything. This is how he prepares. We confidence in that, and Rossi kind of knows how everyone's feeling. He kind of knows the quirks of everybody, and I mean that was probably a great pairing for your team and your chemistry.
Yeah, and the fact that he plays, so like obviously it's kind of like being the kicker on the football team, right? Like pitchers go over to this field, they do their work, hitters go over here and do their work.
Right.
And it's hard for us unless you have a really good relationship with the guy. Like I could go up to Rizzo and basically say whatever I wanted to him. Happer, same way. I could talk to him. Jay Hay, like I had a relationship with those guys where I could bring questions to them about defensive positioning or whatever it may be. Whereas Rossi's that go between. When a pitcher's having trouble with a position player, Rossi would go handle that. Rossi would talk to the defensive coach to help us out because, like I said, when the pitcher enters the room, it's kind of like, well, what are you doing here? Like you're not supposed to be in this meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what made him really good. And it took him a while in his career to understand that role. And when he got to Atlanta, he signed as a backup catcher to Brian McCann. And so he knew what we were talking about earlier. He knew his role. He knew that Mac was going to catch, unless something happened to him, he was going to catch 90% of the games. And Rossi was going to get basically the shit day game hotter than two hells in Atlanta on Sunday at 1:00. He'd get that game, so. And then he realized, okay, well, if this is my role, then I have to bring something else to the table. And that's when he picked up on being more of this vivacious personality, and really kind of rallying the troops around everybody and getting them going and having the energy. Because you got these guys, in Atlanta, in Chicago, wherever, you got these guys that are playing 150 games, 155 games. Rossi's playing 40,
Mm-hmm.
maybe a little bit more. So you need to bring something. You need to get these guys' energy levels up. You need to bring them up higher, especially in, like I said, July, August, those times of the year where you're just dragging. You need that energy. You need that kind of that raw guy, and he was really good at that.
Your no hitter. I pulled up.
Oh yeah, we got sidetracked.
No. We should absolutely get sidetracked. I mean, people ask me like, "Are you?" I said, "Got Lester on tomorrow." Like, pretty cool for a guy like I have no business sitting down, and I'm not Dan Rather. Like, it's not a 60. I'm not at 60 minutes. Like, it's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
They're like, "Are you ready?" I was like, "Well, I mean, like in what terms? Like, I have nothing planned. I want to take the conversation wherever it goes." So, like, obviously I know of career accomplishments and what we can discuss, go down those paths. But I pull up the box score for the no hitter. Like, what do you remember about that day? Like,
I remember I warmed up like crap. I threw 2 balls off the backstop. I was trying to go into a righty, and they would have been behind a lefty. I remember, well, before that, I remember sitting on the bench, and you go over the game report before we go over all the hitters,
mm-hmm.
and I would always get out there like 6:25. We started at 7:10, and I would try to be out in right field at 6:25 was kind of my time. And I got out there a little early, so I sat on the bench for a minute and just kind of was looking around. And John Farrell came out there, our pitching coach at the time, and he went over a few hitters. He's like, "Hey, remember Billy Butler? If you do this, you got to get the cutter in on him, or curveballs are short with this guy. You got to do this." We went over a few guys, and then ran out, warmed up. I had one of the worst bullpens I've ever had. And the game kind of started slow. Like I didn't have great stuff. I remember striking out Mark Grzelonic, who didn't strike out. And I was trying to throw a sinker down and away, and I cut it, and it ran like all the way in. like a nasty cutter,
Yeah.
and he swung over the
Accident.
top of it. Yeah, and he swung over the top of it, and it was like that's kind of how the game started. It was like trying to go away, up and in, out, trying to go in, down and away, out, and just kind of built. And that was really my first time in the big leagues where I hadn't given up a hit in a few innings.
When do you notice, like, as a pitcher, when do you, like, when did it hit you that was like, oh, actually, I haven't given up a hit. Like, let's lock in here. Like,
So I would lie and say it took a while, but it doesn't at Fenway because you got the scoreboard right there. It's on the green monster. So when you run out, it's directly in front of you.
mm-hmm.
So you see the whole deal.
Was it like the fifth? Was it like,
Well, like for me, it didn't become a reality until I got one out in the seventh.
okay,
I got one out in the seventh, and you start counting. You're like, oh, I got 8 more,
like, oh
and then you get
shit.
an out, and
Like,
you're like, yeah, you're like, oh, okay, I got 7. Like now you start, and then you get to the eighth. Well, after the seventh, people that's a small dugout, right? And
yeah.
I'm the only person at the end of the dugout, and everybody else is like sitting on each other's lap down here. And so it's like, oh, okay, this is possible. So then we get through the eighth, and you're like, oh damn, I got 3 more outs. And it's like that extra adrenaline. Um, and I got an out in the ninth, and I remember telling myself, I was like, you know what? Because I was amped up. I was through the roof amped up.
You threw
And
130 pitches that day. I'm surprised.
yeah,
Like, that was early in the season. It was May. No, yeah, May.
hey,
I'm I'm surprised. Like, in today's, I don't know,
it
a
would have
lot of
never.
managers that would let you. Was that
Yeah,
Tito? That was man.
yeah.
Yeah,
And they were panicking. Theo was either he was in the tunnel or he was calling down, one of the two, about my pitches and my pitch count. And it to be honest with you, I'm glad that it didn't matter. Like I think I skipped or I got pushed back 2 days in my next start to give me a couple extra days to recover.
yeah.
Uh, but I didn't feel tired. I felt great. Even in the middle innings, I felt good. And I just remember telling myself, I got one out in the ninth, and I'm like, you know what? Calm down. If this is meant to be my night, it's gonna happen. Like I can't prevent it from happening. It's kind of that uncontrollable. Okay, I'm gonna throw the pitch that I'm supposed to throw and see what happens. Um,
I mean, you could throw one right
and,
down the middle, and it could be a rocket right at somebody, and they make a
yeah,
play.
yeah.
You know.
There was a play. So everybody has a play, right?
Yep. I was
That
gonna ask you, was there a
stands out.
play that was like,
Jacoby made a play in center field. It was off the end. Jose Guillen hit it. Full swing. So it's one of those ones where the center fielder kind
he
of
like backs up?
back. He ran in and he dove backhanded, and I don't know how he caught it, but he caught it and did like this somersault slide thing. It was early in the game, maybe like 4th inning, 3rd inning, something like that. And that was the play. I'm glad it didn't happen later in the game because it would give me a heart attack. But after that, after that play, it was pretty. Pedroia made a good play, but nothing crazy. And then, like I said, I got to the ninth, and it was just like, all right, if it's meant to happen, it's going to happen. And then, Joe, I've never in my whole career, my whole life, I should say, I've never been on the mound for like the final out of a championship of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me to be out there and do that and then have everybody come, like I'm always the one jumping on somebody,
Right. Yeah.
to have them jump on me. I'll never forget that feeling, of just being able to do that. It was pretty cool. I think to me, that was the cooler part of the night than the actual no hitter. Was having, everybody celebrate and jump around and act like kids again.
Yeah, it's because, like we talked about, like, it's like, yeah, it's badass. You do 9 innings and you
Yeah.
give up a hit, but like the moments of sharing that with your team is what is cool for you. Like,
Yeah.
I love that about just sports. I mean,
Yeah.
but more so baseball, I think, than any other sport, because like we talked about earlier, there's so much downtime. There's so much time with your team. Like, you go out and you prep for 5 days to pitch.
Mhm.
You may pitch one inning, or you may
Yeah.
pitch nine, but like this
That's
this
happened.
this game lasted 2 hours and 30 minutes. You were probably on the mound for an hour of it, maybe tops,
Mhm.
and you have 5 days to prepare for that. In between those 5 days, you're with your team most of the time, and it's just baseball,
Yeah.
and that's why I think it matters so much, like what kind of teammate you are, you know, how you handle situations and how you interact with guys, like because there is so much downtime.
Yeah.
So I mean,
For sure.
like we talked about earlier, like baseball sucks. Like baseball is terrible. Like you could have had the best stuff of your life that night, and they go out and they just tattoo you,
Oh,
or like
yeah. And I mean, it's happened on both aspects. I mean, it happens a lot where you don't have anything, throw the best bullpen you've ever thrown and go out there and you've got doo-doo and you got to try to figure out how to get 6, 7 innings out of it. And then you go out there and you're like, you could hit a gnat's ass from 100 yards away and just get lit up, especially in Wrigley. I mean, I've had starts where it's just like, what just happened? I mean, were there cannons going off? I mean, I don't know. I mean, balls are just flying out left and right. And you just, it, when everything falls in place and I love the games. So I'll break it down the way a guy broke it. A sports psychologist, Bob Tewksbury, broke this down for me one time when I was younger. He said, let's just say you have a great year and you're healthy and you make 30 starts. He's like, there's going to be 5 starts of those 30 where you can put your hat and glove on the mound and you've got the best stuff that you've had in however long.
mm-hmm.
Okay. So those 5 starts, you have to win. You need to be 5-0 in those starts.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've got 10 starts where you don't have anything. You got to figure out a way to go 500 in those. The other 15-ish starts, you're going to have stuff. You're going to be okay. You're going to pitch. He's like, you need to have an above 500. If you want to have a good year, that needs to be above 500. So you think about that. Half of your starts, you're just competing with stuff that you have.
You're
Out
gonna
of
have
30 starts,
some of it's good, some of it's bad.
yep. I mean, you got to figure out a way to win more in those 15 starts. You would like to go 10-5.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't always get the decision,
Mm-hmm.
right? But your team at least 10-5 in those
You pitch
starts.
well enough to go 10. For your team to go 10-5.
The 10 bad ones need to be 5-5. When you don't have a good year, you're 2-8.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big swinger of your season. So I thought that was pretty cool. It breaks it down.
I love
And
that. We've talked about that actually with a couple like pitching guys where like I've said the same thing to the guys. Like I don't use 30 starts, but like 10 starts in a season. Like you're gonna have your best stuff 2 times. You're gonna have stuff literally it doesn't like you have no idea where it's going. It doesn't spin the way it's going to. You're throwing backup sliders in 2 or 3 of those starts. And in those other starts, like you're gonna have your fastballs working that day, your curveball's okay, and then your changeup sucks. It's about like how do you give your team 5 innings, and it may be 100 pitches in 5 innings,
Yep.
but those 5 innings you didn't get your team an L, like you
Yep.
didn't implode. So like for you, when you didn't have your shit, like what's the mentality? Like what are you
Well,
thinking?
you got to kind of figure. So, like what you're saying is, so I was predominantly fastball cutter
Mm-hmm.
to righties, well, even to lefties, but it was 4-seam cutter in a little doo-doo sinker that just didn't go this way. Curveball and changeup, and I had 2 curveballs ish. One we called a dumper that I would just try to throw, steal a strike. It's an okay curveball, but it's one of those ones that hitters see out of the hand. They're like, nope, and then just dump it in for a strike. And then I would try to throw like the 2-strike under curveball, and then an okay changeup. So out of those pitches in a start, and sometimes it takes you 2 or 3 innings, but hopefully you've made it 2 or 3 innings when you don't have your best stuff. You've got to figure out, okay, I don't have my cutter today. My cutter's backing up. What do I do? How do I go about still using it, but using it at the right times where it's not going to hurt me? Another way, another pitch, a curveball, same thing. But like with kids now, to compare it to kids, you'll see them. I'm helping out with my son's school team this year for pitching, and we had like 8 guys throw bullpens the other night, and you saw it in these just short bullpens. If they threw one curveball that bounced, it was like, nope, not throwing it again. Just because you don't have a feel for it or throw a bad one doesn't mean you stay away from it. You just got to pick times. Okay, if you're missing short with it that day, okay, 0-2, guess what? You get my curveball. I'm still 1-2, but you saw it. Now I put it in the back of your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that it goes back to that cat and mouse game of you don't know I don't have my best stuff when you're hitting. When you step in the box, you think I'm feeling like $1 million out there. Well, in my mind, I'm going, oh shit, I don't know where this ball's going. I hope he doesn't hit it 3 miles. So you've got to figure out a way to, okay, I can't get this four seamer into righties. Well, guess what? We're going to use it. If I get ahead of this guy, I'm coming in off, or I'm going to go up and in instead, to where it's not going to hurt me, but I still show them, okay, I'm coming in there. Just, you got to, the more you pitch and the more you figure out, okay, I have my good stuff, I don't have anything, I have some, you figure out how to kind of try to navigate those. Sometimes you revert to, okay, I don't throw a lot of sinkers, but I'm gonna throw a bunch of sinkers today and see if that gets me locked back in.
They know you're gonna throw a bunch of cutters, but today your cutter's shit, so you're gonna baffle them with bullshit.
Yeah, and sometimes like the cutter in wasn't great, but the backdoor cutter was good. So now it's okay. Now we're gonna just try to set up the backdoor cutter as opposed to trying to ram my cutter in. That's either I'm throwing it for a ball or it's getting hit. All right, now we're going 4 in here, and we're going to set you up with the backdoor cutter for 2 strikes, or even steal a strike that way. Yeah, I know we're talking about like this level up here, but even kids can do different ways of, okay, my changeup isn't working today. Well, I can still throw it, but let's throw it. We're not going to throw it 1-0. You know what I'm saying? Like 1-0 doesn't. If it's not working, now I'm 2-0. How did that help you?
Throw when you're up in the count.
Yeah, 0-1, right-handed pitcher, lefty up, 0-1. I'm going to throw a changeup. See what happens. Now I'm 1-1. I'm still in the count, and I can always go back to my heater if I need to. But let's just say this pitch, well, there it was. Now I'm 0-2. Okay, now I got a feel for it. Now you start kind of developing of a feel as opposed to just throwing.
It's learned. All that stuff is learned through doing it, having confidence in it. And I think part of that is coaching, where, if you've got the coach that every time that you're struggling, he's going to pull you out, or maybe you're scared to struggle because you're going to get your ass chewed out.
Yeah.
A lot of that is who your manager is, and who, we don't call managers at the youth levels, but who your coach is. And do you have a good relationship with them? Are they going to instill confidence in you? And even if you pitch bad, do you know, like, they're still confident in rolling you back out there?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
there's nothing worse, especially in the youth. And I see it at the big league level too, where you need to fail. You need to fail to learn, right? Like, you can't learn just from always succeeding.
No.
There's no worse thing than when you have a kid or a guy in the big leagues, or it doesn't matter what level it is struggling, and now it's bases loaded, 1 out, or second and third, 1 out, and you bring in a new pitcher. Like, let's go through some adversity here. Let's learn. Now, I'm not saying just let the merry-go-round happen, right? Like, we're not talking about that, but there's no second worst feeling is when you bring a new kid in and he gives up all your runs. Now it makes that kid feel even worse than what this kid's feeling, because he's like, well, I just gave up all his runs.
You let his teammate down,
He let his teammate down, So I think there's a time and a place to learn from adversity, to learn from struggling, and we're too quick to hide our kids from that. Like, I need you to fail. I need you to struggle because you learn, okay, hey, how did those guys get on? Did you give up hits? Did you walk them? Did you hit them? What happened? If it's hits, tip your hat, dude. You got beat that day. But if you walk the first three guys you face, well, you obviously didn't. Like, let's try to throw strikes here. Like, come on. And if you give up 2 or 3 runs, but you get a couple outs, now bring somebody in. Hey, there's a positive at least in this whole story that we just went through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you battled through it. You made it out the other side. You're still alive, and you're going to play another day. And you learned that, okay, I just threw 12 balls off the backstop,
You hit the ball.
or whatever it is. And now I got back to throwing strikes and I got some people out. Like, but we get in this situation where he throws, walks all these guys, and then, all right, I'm bringing a new guy in to see if he can throw strikes. And then it's like whack, walk, whack. Okay, there's the 3 runs that I just gave up from my buddy. Like I said, time and a place for the adversity. I don't think it should be all the time, but we need to let these kids experience it to get better as well.
And then talk to them afterwards about
Yeah.
what they can take from that start, and just
Tell
discuss.
them to watch a Braves game. It'll happen to those guys. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. It happens. Like, there's a time where you go out there and you feel like, where am I standing? This looks too far. Doesn't look right. Like, it's going to happen. So you just got to figure out a way to try to get through it. It may not work that way, but at least you tried. You gave it an effort.
Who's your favorite teammate of all time? And if it's Rossi, you can't say Rossi.
No, it's not. It's not Rossi. He's up there, but he's not top. It would probably be a tie for Ortiz and Pedroia are probably like my top guys.
Why?
Because Pedroia is like 5'7" and just the biggest shit talker that you've ever met in your life.
I love it.
He thought, if you heard him talk in a clubhouse and on the field, you would have thought he was 7 foot tall. Just his confidence, the way he went about the game, the way he prepared, the way he loved to play, the way he got more out of his teammates. It's just everything. And then David's just like a special
Human in your,
like, yeah, I've never seen, and I probably never will see it, where like Pedroia would be hitting and David would come out on deck and the whole stadium would just watch David on deck.
mm-hmm.
They're not even watching Pedroia hit. It's just like that whole superstar, that aura. And he's a good dude. Like, he ran the mic for us on the bus, and with his Spanish accent, and,
yeah.
and he's great, man. He's top up there.
I mean, you probably have seen superstars, maybe not as big as Ortiz, but like guys that don't handle it well, and they're like,
oh yeah,
he's a shit dude, man. He is a shit dude. But like Ortiz does something amazing, and obviously you're happy because I'm sure it probably helped your team, but you're happy because like he's a good dude and he's easy to, he's easy to root for.
Exactly. I mean, that's what he is. I mean, I don't think I've played with anybody that was as big as a showman as David was. Like, just that whole, you had David and then you had Big Papi. You know what I'm saying? Like, when he got to the field, he was Big Papi, and he knew how to entertain and how to get people to watch and the flair and all that other stuff.
But he wasn't a douche about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is Joe, man, is he, from a fan standpoint from the outside, like he's the quirky, weird manager dude? Is in person, is he as quirky and weird as a fan of the Cubs would think? Like, is he just a bro? Is he, you know what I mean? Like,
he's yes. But he's a dude. Like, he's a great dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? But the way he talks, the way he goes about his life is what he portrays.
That's him.
So it's not a skit when he's at the podium and talking the way to, like, that's
him.
Joe. Joe's free spirit, free loving, wants everybody to get along, have fun, play the game the right way. Um, yeah. I mean, so yeah, he is. Nothing changes with Joe. He is who you see.
Who's the who's the one hitter that uh, he could be good or not, but you couldn't get out? Like he comes to the plate and you're like, man, this guy again. Like he's hit
There's a
6 times
lot.
today. No, there was not that many, man.
Yeah. So funny, and I don't know how we beat him, but we beat him in 13. Basically, the whole heart of the Detroit Tigers lineup owned me. I had decent numbers against Prince Fielder, and then Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and Torrey Hunter, like just 700 average with like 1,000 OPS. Just, I think Miguel only hit one homer off me, but I think he had the highest average. But like Victor hit a couple homers, Torrey hit a couple homers.
I mean,
Uh,
Victor was just a professional hitter. I mean,
he was, yeah,
switch hitter. I mean, he played for the Indians, so I got to watch him for a while. Like he's just like putting him next to Miguel. Like, dude, like those guys aren't getting themselves out.
no.
That's
So we faced him. We faced him in 13, and Miguel was hurt. He had some type of like, I don't know if it was a hernia or he was hurt. Something was wrong with him. And we went. They came into us, and I pitched against Anibal Sanchez in game 1, and he punched out like 15 against us, 14 or 15. I went 7. He went 8. Punched out like 15. I gave up 1 run and lost 1-0.
baseball
That
sucks.
was that was a shitty loss. That one sucked. That was one of those ones where it was like that was the 5 start. That was the you put your hat down on the mound, but he had it a little bit better. I hung a curveball to Omar Infante with a guy on second, and that's how they scored their run.
I mean, that's the baseball sucks part, right?
Yeah,
Like you could do everything
yeah.
right and you could have
But
your
we
best
won the
stuff.
series, so that's all that matters.
Yeah, they never won anything, but God bless it. Those Tigers teams, like we can never get past them. Like, dude, Scherzer, Verlander, Miguel, Victor,
Yeah.
like,
They just didn't
God,
have a bullpen. I forgot their closer that David hit the homer off of, but
they had like a
Vic,
guy named Joel Zumaya, I think, that threw like 102, but he was never
yeah,
healthy.
I played against him in the minor leagues. We came up against each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, in Sarasota, Florida, played there, and then played against him in Double A and in the what is that, the Eastern League or whatever it is.
I had Kyle Farmer on a couple weeks ago, and he just went through and talked about if you're gonna make it, like part of even making it in the bigs isn't even like talent level. It's just like, do you love baseball enough to go through the minor leagues? It's
Yeah,
like it's such a grind. Like you're making no money. You're in small towns. You know, it's just the biggest grind ever. But
it's really hard for guys that don't get a decent bonus. I mean, I was lucky. I was a second rounder, so I got a decent bonus. But yeah, to your point, I mean, I played with guys that were, pretty high picks. I mean, you're talking 7th, 8th round guys that after 2 years were just like, I'm good. I'm not doing this anymore. Because I think for me, a high school kid would do better than the college kids would, because the high school kids, it's kind of like the naiveness to it.
right.
You're traveling the world, you're playing in these podunk deals, and you don't have, this is kind of your college now.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys I mean, they had life way better. They're playing baseball, they're getting money stipends, which is more than what you're making in 2 weeks down here in podunk Asheville, or, you know, playing in Rome, Georgia, or wherever you're playing. And, I could see why college guys are like, nope, this ain't it.
They're older and they're ready to like
Yeah.
start their life. Like, all right, well,
And
I
if
don't
they're
think
an
I'm gonna
A
make
ball
it.
for 2 years, they're like, no, I'm not moving up. This isn't for me. I'm out. I don't blame them.
So I always end each interview with call it the lightning round. So I'll just ask you questions, random shit that doesn't pertain to anything, but it's become some of people's favorite part of this. And actually, some of these questions that I already asked are going to be interesting for you. You'll see why in a second. So is a hot dog a sandwich?
It's a hot dog. No, it's a hot dog.
You put pineapple on pizza?
I do.
Artificial turf or natural grass?
Grass.
So this question I ask everybody, but with you, it's going to be good. Big Green Monster or Chicago Ivy?
Ooh.
If you don't want to piss off a fan base, you can just
Is
plead the fifth.
the ivy green or is it brown?
No,
Is it the middle of the summer or is it
green because we want it at its best.
okay? I would say ivy.
I struggled. I was like, I don't know if Josh sent you like a preview of like what I've done with this for the video part. I always put like the little logo of whatever college that person's coaching that day, and like with Farmer, I put the Twins logo on because even though he's played for different organizations, I was like, do I put the Twins or do I put the Red Sox or do I put the Cubs? Like won a World Series with a ball. Like they're like, why don't you just ask? I was like, no, I'm just gonna pick one and hopefully it's right. So I put the Red Sox because
That's fine.
that's who you draft. That's who drafted you. That's who
Yeah,
you know.
it's one of those. I don't think there's a wrong.
There's no,
As long
no.
as you didn't put the A's up there, then we're
I
good.
would have not put the A's. Is that ballpark? I mean, just is it bad as like?
Terrible.
Yeah, I don't
We
want
had
to
so I
say
was there for
too
two
much bad
months.
stuff, but like,
It's bad. I was there for 2 months and we had four days at home where we couldn't take a shower after the game because the sewage had come up into it.
dude, that's so bad. It's so
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah.
I mean, if you get drafted by the A's, are you just like, I'm going back to college?
You just hope that you're good enough to get traded. It's kind of one of those that they traded for some. They're good and they needed a veteran, so they traded you for them.
um, day or night games.
Ooh,
This is also good because you guys played a ton of day games in Chicago.
I loved it, especially as a pitcher. I loved it because it was more of the like 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Like we could go to dinner and be with your kids and all that stuff.
Now that you're like, what do you want to do post baseball? Like, do you want to get into a front office position? Do you want to be like a
Uh,
special advisor? Like what?
I've talked. So I've just picked up my first coaching job. I'm helping, like I said earlier, I'm helping my son's school team
Do you like
do
it?
that. We've had one practice or one tryout, and it was good. Like working with the kids. The kids are great. Um,
Well, kids are great
so
because you're
I mean,
Jon Lester. When you're Mike Shepard and you're 5'7" and you're 210 pounds and you waddle like a duck, and you can hit a good fungo. That's about it. Like it's
yeah,
sometimes it's not so great.
I hear you. Well, it was the first day, so hopefully it stays where it was on Wednesday. But I don't know. I might try out. I've talked to some people about doing like MLB Network, going up there and just doing a few shows.
Yeah,
So I don't know, man. I don't want to do. My whole thing is controlling the narrative, control my schedule,
yeah.
and I feel like if I do like an special assistant job, it's going to be, hey, we need you here, and I don't want that.
You
I
want to
want
do
to
what
be
you want to
like
do when you want to do it.
exactly like, hey, fam wants to come to Chicago in June. I'll be there for a homestand. Like, let's talk or knock some stuff out then, and like that sort of thing. But not the you go here when we tell you thing.
Yeah, but I mean, after COVID, so many things are virtual now. Like
Yeah,
you probably can weasel in like we're doing this on Zoom. You can weasel like, hey, yeah, just zoom me in, man. Like, get me a good mic, zoom me in, and I'll get on the MLB network twice a week. But I'm not going up there, and I don't want to touch a virtual board. Like, I'll make 2 in studio appearances a year, but
Mhm.
I'll come on and say what I think, say what I feel. You know, because I have a feeling you won't be your persona is not going to go on there and be something. You don't need the clicks. You know what I mean? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like you're just going to tell it like it is and be honest, which we need more of.
Yeah.
And you give a good insight of what it's really like in the pitcher's head, or like you talked about, like when you don't have your best stuff, like the mindset. Like for baseball people, that shit is what I want to hear. You know what I mean? Like I know analytics are in the game, and I know, but I think the mental aspect of it is so much more exciting to hear people talk about.
Yeah.
You know,
I agree.
like what you're thinking about when you don't have your, like clearly tonight. You know, John doesn't have his cutter doing this. Like he's probably thinking, I need to do this and that, and he probably threw that cutter knowing it's going to be shit, but he's got to throw it because you got to show it.
Yeah.
I think you actually be awesome at that. So,
Well, I asked him about doing just going on with D Row in the morning on the MLB, what is that, MLB Now or MLB, whatever that is. Because I think he does one of the best jobs with the hitting
mm-hmm.
and breaking the hitter down and what they're thinking and their approach and all that other stuff. And I think that would be, to your point, like go on there and break down a couple pitchers or a pitcher or whatever and do that. That's more of the interactive deal that I think I would enjoy. I don't think I would enjoy sitting behind the desk and just talking about the games that are going on.
Yeah, like you got to do so. Why would you go do something that you don't enjoy? You know what I mean? Like at this point, like just do something that you love that gets you out of bed in the morning.
Exactly.
You hunt?
We'll see. Huh?
Do you hunt?
Yeah.
You need any? You need any point and lab puppies?
No,
You
I
hunt?
don't.
You hunt pheasant?
I don't. No, I mainly just deer.
I was a big deer hunter with my dad until college, and then I kind of just got away. I killed a 9 pointer. Should have been a 12, but I did a deformed rack my last year hunting, and I was like 18, and I went out on a high note.
There you go.
I never gutted my own deer though. I was such a big baby when I was that age.
I know the feeling on that. I haven't perfected that craft, and I need help doing it. But we got a farm down by the Grange area, Pine Mountain area. So I'm on like that side of the hunting, like the own it, plant the food plots, and like all that fun stuff. So
why Atlanta?
So I had like a handful of guys that I played with my first year that we were all in the same draft. And so like we all stayed together in spring training. And then our first year we were all together in Augusta, and I liked the area. And then a buddy of mine who ended up becoming one of my best friends lives in like South Georgia. And so I would go down with him and go hunting and hang out, and just, I couldn't live down there, but I liked flying in and out of Atlanta, and I, as much as Augusta, the field was a dump. I liked Augusta, kind of the whole feel of the South. I needed someplace other than Washington, because the weather up there sucks in the winter.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be another statistic of the Arizona baseball or the Florida baseball guy. And then I actually had met my wife. I met her like that season when I ended up moving down here, just by kind of happenstance. And she's from Greenville, South Carolina. So kind of settled down here.
I think when I was doing a little like background, I read that you met her when you were in single A. Was it you were in single A on a rehab start, or was it when you were just?
That's when I was coming back from my lymphoma. I was on they put me on a rehab assignment, and they had moved the Augusta team to Greenville. They'd built a stadium up there, and met her up there.
That's awesome. I mean, because you probably weren't there for long. I mean,
I was there for a month. I made 5 starts. So
was she at all 5?
What's that?
Was she at all 5?
No, I didn't meet her until I did meet her. I met her there like the first day we were there, but I think she only came to 1.
You put your number on a ball and throw it in the stands?
No, I don't have I don't have a story behind it or anything.
Nothing good.
No, just the normal kind of meet somebody out type deal.
Are Are you pro or anti-shift?
What's that?
Are you pro or anti-shift? Like shifting the infielders?
I don't. So I don't know. It's a yes or no question, isn't it? I would
Go ahead.
say.
No, you can elaborate. It's fine.
I was gonna say I like the shift. I just don't like when you have a second baseman in right field. Like I feel like you should be able to move people wherever you want to, but they got to stay on the dirt.
Give David Ortiz his justice.
Exactly. I mean, he would have hit 350 if he didn't have a guy in right field.
You could put 12 guys in the right side of the infield, and he'll still hit a ball by him.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing with that too is okay, if David hits a ball to right field, it's over your head anyway. So just move the right fielder in, have the second baseman play normal. If the ball gets by him, the right fielder might have a chance of throwing him out. Because if he pulls the ball to right, it's usually gone. So you don't have to worry about that ball.
If he pulls a ball to right field and it's short, like it's probably a laser.
Yeah. And it's gonna come back off the wall and you're gonna be able to get it and throw it back in. He's only gonna get a double anyway. So regardless of where your right fielder's standing, if it's over your head, it's a double or homer. And then if it's in front of you, you have a chance of throwing them out. So the answer to your question of the shift, if they stay in the dirt, then I don't mind the shift.
Yeah. Who was it? Ronnie Belliard would have an issue with that. I don't know if you remember Ronnie Belliard. Ronnie Belliard would play shallow right field at second base, even with no shift. That's just where he played. I mean, one of the questions I always ask is like, do you prefer a pitching duel or offensive clinic? But
pitching duel,
I would assume. If you're pitching, was it pitching duel? But like, if you're not pitching, do you want to see runs? Do you like the 10-9?
Well, I mean, obviously you want to see your guys score runs, but I don't mind watching a pitching duel on if I'm not pitching. Like I think that's fun too. I like seeing the frustration on the hitters' faces when they can't figure somebody out.
Yeah. Who's the best hitter you went against? Single hitter, maybe not that owned you as much, like the Detroit Lions. Jesus, like the Tigers lineup. Like who's just the best pure hitter you've seen?
I would just pure hitter. I would say Jeter. And he had good numbers off me. Because he had that inside out swing and I would pitch him in. So he always hit. I think he got one homer, but always just would get hits.
Mm-hmm. What about pitcher? Who's the best?
Best pitcher I ever went against?
Anibal Sanchez on that one single day.
On that one single day. I'm trying to think. I mean, I got to see, kind of at the end, I got to see Roger and Randy Johnson, but they weren't the same. I mean, I played with
see the talent.
Yeah. I mean, they got people out with just their presence. They didn't have to throw a pitch and people were walking back to the dugout. I never saw Pedro live, and he was at the end when I got up. I mean, I would say, probably live, there'd be two. Felix Hernandez in his prime in Seattle when he was doing they had the King's Court.
That's sick.
That was pretty cool. And then the 1 year DeGrom, the first year DeGrom won the Cy Young. I think it was 15 or 6. Whenever he won the Cy Young, he was with the Mets.
Is that when he was like 12-13 with like a 1.7 ERA?
Yeah, he missed some time, but he finished the year crazy, and it was just stupid. I mean, he was the way he picked, because he wasn't just throwing, like he was throwing 98 to 100 or whatever, but he had that little cutter, and then he had change up, and he was pitching. It was pretty special. He
was like next level talent, and just can get the guys out with that. But also, he was setting guys up.
Yeah,
when he probably didn't even need to, because his stuff was so good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I think I got everything out that I need to, and I appreciate you coming on, and this was awesome. Problem. Hopefully, it wasn't just a standard, boring podcast interview. That it
was good. I enjoyed it.
So, cool, man. I will edit this, and I don't think there's anything that I got to cut out that we said that was bad, but I'll send you a like a preview of it. That way, if you want to listen and make sure and give me the green light, we'll post it out there. But I appreciate it, and hopefully
you're good to go on it.
Yeah, hopefully people, you know, listened. Some of the stuff you said I thought was awesome. Talking about the mentality and the failing and letting kids go out there and learning on that. So I can't thank you enough, and I appreciate it. And
no problem.
you know, good luck with whatever you want to get into post playing career, man.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good one.
All right, man. You too.
Later.